Hey everybody, I'm Joey.
And I'm Rachel, and this is Good Things to Watch with Joey and Rachel, a podcast with two pals who watch a lot of movies and TV. We'll be taking a deep dive into our favorite films and shows and sharing insights as to what you should be watching too.
Today we'll be discussing the good bad, the bad bad, and the downright ugly.
Just a word of warning, these episodes will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen these shows or movies, what are you waiting for? Go watch them and then come back.
Rachel, tell me, what are your thoughts on? So I guess I just want to start here. I went to film school. I don't know if I told you that. I don't know if we've had that talk over and over and over again. But
maybe briefly.
I've come across a lot of people who I'm not going to name anybody, and I think I might want to have some of them on a podcast eventually. But I feel like I've come across people that I would quote as pretentious. And I think there's like this negative connotation to, or kind of this snobby view on movies that if you like a bad movie, you have bad taste. But I think that's a complete, I think it's hogwash, because I love some really bad movies. And I don't think that makes me have bad taste. I think I have wonderful movie taste.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, there are some things to really enjoy about some bad movies. Sometimes it can be just, because it makes you laugh because it's so bad, or you find something redeeming about it, whether some of the acting or the dialogue, which in bad movies, it's just usually bad movies and dialogue anyway. Or you watched it at a certain time of your life that you're kind of nostalgic for, or there's something in the movie that you connected to that makes you like it despite the fact that it's a bad film.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I think it does bug me sometimes when people who are, I would say a lot of podcasters too out there are kind of like a little snobby about it. I don't know. There's plenty of geeks out there who will defend what they love. And I think that's kind of the most important thing out there is for any kind of like movie or any kind of conversation about movies or TV is like, talk up stuff you love about it. It's like, don't tear each other apart just because you didn't agree with the movie. It's not your friend's opinion that's wrong. But what's some of your favorite bad movies?
Some of my favorite bad movies, I have to go. My go-to with those is usually the first 5 Puppet Master movies. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Yeah.
Charles Band.
No, actually.
Full Moon production movies are typically bad. It's usually bad acting, bad dialogue, bad a lot of things, but there's usually something to enjoy in those movies also.
Yeah.
And in the Puppet Master series, it's the puppets. And the first 5, yes, they're not great films if you want to pick them apart, but I do enjoy them. 6 and beyond are just trash.
I think horror is a great place to talk about like good, bad movies because, but I guess you can also talk about really bad movies in horror too. And I think that's what you're referring to for those 6 and on, because I feel that way about a lot of the Halloween franchise is there's some really bad ones in there, but it's like, well, whatever. I mean, like Halloween 5, like H5 Loomis, that man talking about that rage that Michael had. Is like one of the funniest. It's so ridiculous and it's so bad, but it's just like I can't look away from it. And I think horror is right. I think that like things like Freddy Krueger, a lot of those 80s movies that the franchises kept stretching into the 90s, I think those are all prime examples of movies that'll be fine holiday fun, but no one's going to be getting any real critical awards there.
Right. Another one that I really like is Troll from 1986. It's got Noah Hathaway from The Neverending Story. Yeah, his
family. The main kid?
What's that?
Is that the main kid?
Yes.
Oh, I haven't.
Well, no, I mean the main kid in Neverending Story is Neverending Story has Atreyu. Atreyu is Noah Hathaway.
Oh, right, right.
So his family moves into this apartment building, and
Mhm.
his sister ends up um, getting cloned by, or he takes over her body. This
Mhm.
troll, and he's on the search for this mystical ring, and he kind of like wants to turn the apartment building and then the world into like this kind of fairy tale land. So he's turning everybody into creatures along the way. It's bad, but I love it.
Is Trolls 2 the one that one has no relation to the original
Correct.
and has a
Correct.
very bad scene where the guy with the glasses like they're eating her and then they're gonna eat me.
Yeah, it has no relation to Troll.
That is so funny.
How about
Have
you?
you ever seen favorite bad movies? I feel like I have some that I grew up with. Like, I really enjoy Look Who's Talking 2 and Look Who's Talking Now with Kirstie Alley and John Travolta, where Bruce Willis and Roseanne are doing the voices of the babies. And I think Danny DeVito and Diane Keaton are doing the dogs in the third one. And I didn't realize, but I looked it up. It was on one of those fun listicles of like bad movies that have 0% Rotten Tomatoes. Look Who's Talking Now has a 0% Rotten Tomatoes. Now I know it's no Shakespeare or anything, but I am not really sure what what happened in that film that caused it to have a 0%. It's just like a fun, enjoyable kid movie. And I just feel like it kind of fell from grace a little bit because the first one, and I think even the second one, were kind of funny and popular, but I don't know. That's like one that I grew up with that I think is like one of my favorite bad movies, just because that article with Rotten Tomatoes really stuck with me. And then I think this might be opening a can of worms here, but I Mr. Deeds, an Adam Sandler movie, is one of my favorite bad movies ever. I'm not sure though. So here's my thing with Adam Sandler, and this could be a whole debate in itself. But I'm like, are any of his movies classified as good? Because I think Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, critical reception from everybody are like everyone loves those two movies. But I don't know that they're good movies. I don't know if they're technically good movies. What do you think?
Right. I love them both so much that I tend to think of them as good movies, but thinking critically, maybe not. You probably have to look more towards the Click or Uncut Gems, or some
Yeah,
of his
okay.
more recent stuff.
Or Punk Drunk Love. That was a really serious one for him. There's also one about where he was in 9/11. I think his family got killed by the Twin Towers collapsing. And but it was a real serious role for him, and he did a really good job. But I think like he's almost kind of like a experiment to look at in the film world, just Adam Sandler, and maybe Nicolas Cage too. But he might be another person we just have to have a whole podcast dedicated to. But I like I love Mr. Deeds. There's something, it's very warm. It's somehow it's in New York City during the winter and it feels very warm and cozy to me. Um I love Winona Ryder and it's so silly. It's so dumb. All the jokes are so dumb and silly. But I don't know. I just absolutely love it. And I think that's it. It's not nostalgic. It's a cozy movie. Like there's something about that movie where I felt like maybe it's because I grew up with it. It reminds me of coming home from school and like turning it on and just kind of enjoying my afternoon kind of thing. But it's like, and you don't have to. And that might be the cool thing about bad movies in general is you don't have to invest yourself too much into it. You just kind
Right.
of lay there and let it happen to you.
Right.
And
Right.
that's, I don't know. I think Adam Sandler he's a fascinating man when it comes to like, okay, well, because there's an arc that everyone has right after Click. I think that's the last thing, and that's getting few and far between at that point for Adam Sandler. And I think that was 2006 of him having good movies. But I think that was like the last like everyone really liked it, and then after that it's like, oh god, he made a ridiculous 6. What was that? And that was a bad movie, and I just feel like he doesn't put any effort into it anymore.
Right. I did like bedtime stories.
Oh, I never saw that one, and I still might not. I don't know. The trailer, I don't know what's going on with this one.
I thought it was cute. Um, Before we do go on, though, I just want to go back to our Christmas episode just a bit, because now we're talking about good, bad movies. And I wanted to mention Christmas Evil because I make my little notes on the movies I want to talk about. On the podcast, I called it Christmas Evil, and I said it was 1976. It's actually 1980, and that's what I wrote in my notes. But for some reason, I just said 76, and I don't know why. So I just wanted to address that and move on.
Rachel, I don't question your credentials. I know how amazing you are.
Well, thank you. Do you want to talk
happens
about,
to the best of us,
right? Do you want to talk about any bad movies?
Gosh, I mean, I'm trying to think. What I think is a bad movie is most sequels that really like hurt you in a way. It's like Alien 3, for example. I think the problem with Alien 3, and I think that's an interesting aspect of it too, is because I feel like a lot of bad stuff just goes so under the radar that you'll never see it. But it's the ones that just hurt you so much. Like for Aliens, I'll say Aliens is my all-time Aliens with an S, 1982, 4, 5, something like that. Rachel, I don't know. I'll have to look that one up, because I remember the first one's 1978. But Aliens is my favorite action movie of all time. And I think they kill a lot of main characters right in the beginning and undo a lot of the good things that they work on and fight so hard for in the second movie, right at the beginning of the third. And I think what that is a major portrayal to the fans for the sake of Hollywood making money. And I think that's where a lot of bad movies come in, is because you hurt the fans, and that's the only thing you have is like, yeah, it's bad material and you're not getting the critics, but you have people who love it out there because it's silly, but they make some connection with it.
Right, exactly.
What are your thoughts on bad movies? Did you have a movie that hurt you, Rachel?
I have a list. That could go on forever. And most of them happen to be horror movies, because that's where you do usually find the bad movies. But there are a few I could highlight.
6?
What's that?
Ugh, what? Halloween 6 on that
Halloween
list? That
6
mother
is brutal.
Jerk. Duh. Jamie Lloyd? Are you kidding me? That's her end. And you know what bugs me too is she's not coming into the 2018 Halloween Kills and Ends continuity. She's gone. And Danielle Harris, I mean, she came back for the remakes, which is talking about bad movies. I mean, the remake original is fine, the Rob Zombie's Halloween, but that sequel, again, was just a slap in the face to the fans.
It really truly was. I've got Death Row Diner is probably it's one of the worst. It's one of the 2 worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It's direct to video movie about a guy who is on death row, and he's executed without being given his last meal. So now he comes back hungry for revenge. Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
That's hilarious.
You can check out the trailer and a couple of clips online, but it's absolutely horrendous. It kind of even just seems like they're ad-libbing the whole script. I don't know if that was the deal, but it's just that atrocious.
That reminds me of Half Past Dead with Steven Seagal. Have you seen that?
I have not.
It came out in the 90s or early 2000s, and it's him and Ja Rule is his like side guy, and it's like these bad guys are invading this prison to get this dude, and he's a prisoner, but he's really a cop, and he's like, you know, Steven Seagal, the martial artist, and it's all these crazy fight scenes. He looks like he is sleepwalking through that role, and I think that's another big piece of bad movies, Rachel, is like, if okay, it's a good bad movie if you could tell the actors are having a great time doing it. But if it's a bad movie, if you like, oh, they don't even look like they're having any fun doing this. Like, do you? I think this might be a whole topic here, but what do you think about the Star Wars prequels? And if they are bad movies, which I'm not going to influence any decision. You know, whatever you think. But I mean, man, that Lord Sidious, that dude, Palpatine eats up those lines in there, doesn't he? I mean, he's fantastic.
Oh, the prequels. Oh my goodness. I remember seeing episode 1 in the theater, a midnight showing, and I came out so disappointed. I was heartbroken. Um,
Uh,
my friend Joe likes to come up with really funny names for movies that he does not enjoy. So he started calling it the Phantom Mess, which
oh, hilarious.
I still call it that to this day. But then to me, they got increasingly a little bit better. Clones was better than Mess, and then Revenge of the Sith. We did kind of enjoy that one, except for some things. You know, the whole story arc of Anakin kind of got screwed up for me. The creatures, I always love
Yeah,
the creatures. The creatures are great. Um,
yeah.
I love the bad characters, but there was
Do
just a
you think?
lot that I did not like.
Do you think that bad movies, or some bad movies, and I guess it maybe depends, for like a thing like Star Wars, you have such a hardcore fan base, but do you think bad movies get better with age sometimes? Because I think a lot of people have a lot of respect for Revenge of the Sith now, which wasn't, I don't know, definitely the best out of the three back then. But I think now people like look at Revenge of the Sith as like, man, that's such essential lore to everything that happened. The attack in the Jedi Temple, and it's like almost like it's history now.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe people get nostalgic and then they look back at things and they realize that now that they've probably seen worse, that actually kind of looks better to them.
I think The Phantom Menace is a good bad movie though. Like and this might be just because I was in a completely different place than you when it came out, and I think I was 10, and I had watched the three previous ones only a couple of years before. So for me, it was just like cool lightsabers, and then seeing just new stuff was neat, and this whole new world, and Darth Maul was so cool, and that double blade and that fight scene. Oh my god! Did you even know they could fight with lightsabers like that? It was so cool. I
That
know
was
it's
amazing.
bad.
We love Darth Maul. Darth Maul is great, and one of the things that we didn't like is that they did kill him, and we were like, this could have been a great bad guy to follow, and we were
Yeah.
just kind of bummed about that because we really did like him.
You know what, Rachel? I'm really glad that I've watched all the animated Star Wars stuff since I've gotten Disney Plus, and that I'm glad I waited and I didn't join it, because I definitely was against it when it came out. Because I'm like, why are they making animated stuff? We have like, this is actually canon. Like, I have to watch this animated show to. But you know what? Darth Maul is not dead, and I will go say this right now. He is one of the most profound arcs of all of Star Wars characters after that scene. So if and when you get some time to just like start digging into Clone Wars and then Rebels, because the story carries through both, it's really wonderful. There's a lot to Clone Wars, and I think you probably skipped the first or second season, but it gets continually better. And that's kind of an interesting topic too, bad television shows.
I think we could make a whole episode on that.
Because I don't think you can survive as a bad television show necessarily. Well, I don't know. That's not true. Look at look at As the World Turns and Days of Our Lives. Those shows have been on for literally forever, and we
Don't you
can't get
pick
rid of.
on General Hospital though? Don't you pick on my General Hospital?
Well, I might start picking on Grey's Anatomy because I don't know how that thing's still happening. Sorry to any fans out there of Grey's. I think it's not really my cup of tea. But you know, there is a bad show out there right now that I absolutely adore because it is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And it just brings me so much joy to watch when I'm sitting on the couch doing nothing and I just need to relax. You know what that is, Rachel?
What's that?
Riverdale. That
Oh,
show
yes.
is freaking ridiculous. Archie Andrews is, I really like the actor. He's like this, he's from New Zealand, and KJ Appa. He's a really good musician too. And you could tell like he's like just like one of these fun-loving, nice guys that he just loves. Like he's on a cool like kids popular TV show, and he's just digging it. But oh my gosh, the stuff that they get into in that show is the most ridiculous circumstances. They fight killers, they fight cults. They're just going to high school. One girl in the show, Veronica, has a speakeasy, a bar that she owns. She's 17. How does she do that? She's going to school.
I just when I with that show, I just can't yet. I was a big fan of the Archie comics when I was a kid, and I just
Oh, it's
right now I just can't. Maybe someday, eventually, I just can't right now.
I really don't like Cole Sprouse because I think he really thinks he's super cool. However, the girl who plays Betty, Lily Reinhart, that she's amazing. She's very funny. She's actually good. I think she'll go place. She was in that Hustlers movie with J Lo, and I really think she's an interesting person. I think we should keep an eye on her. But if you ever want a goofy show that just gets like every single episode, it's almost like they're saying, what can I do this episode to make it even more ridiculous than the last? I think at one point, one of them just set somebody on fire, like a bad guy on fire. And then like the next episode, they were doing the nails with their girlfriend and they were all good.
You know,
Like it didn't even happen.
you know how okay. There's a show that actually I'm waiting for the next season to come out because I'm going to jump all over it. But there's a show that I feel like that about, but in a good way, and that's What We Do in the Shadows. It is
Oh, I've heard of this.
it's the most ridiculous show, one of the most ridiculous shows I've ever seen. But it's like
Yeah.
The Office with vampires.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And it is hilarious. The shenanigans. It's just funny. It's just something that you have to watch.
You know what I think's interesting about TV too is that you could have, it's not like a movie, it's because you can have the show turn bad eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the same thing. It's like I think I think TV shows focus more and need more the love of the fandom to continue. And I think that's what really hurts them too, like I was saying before, is like the betrayal of the fandom. Case in point, Daenerys Targaryen.
Right.
How dare they? How dare the double D's? I know it's been over a year now. I am still furious. And that was end all be all what went completely wrong with that show for me. That was like the most unforgivable act is it's just like a complete character turn. Like she just would never do that. And it hurt. And then all of a sudden she's like all crazy at the end and just another crazy girl. She was powerful. So she must be nuts. It was just like they went backwards, really backwards in the last season.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that they had already set it up that Targaryens go crazy. So that it's almost like they felt like they had to service that rule that they had already created.
I just feel like, Viserys, her father, and some of her other relatives were all nuts. So it's like, why couldn't she be somebody who did not have any kind of problems with that? And I just think there wasn't enough hints. Yes, she was brutal and ruthless, but when she had to be, and when she was being strong for other people, that hurt. And do you hear me? Here I am complaining about it like this because that's like the betrayal of the fans. And I think I think we're in an interesting time right now where people are making stuff. And I like to make videos, and I'd like to make more like narrative stuff myself, and I get really into that. But I think people are just making what they want, like Cobra Kai, and people are using this term fan service. And I think what bugs me about using the term fan service as a negative outlook is like, I mean, why would they even make it though? Like, it's for you. Just enjoy it. Like, why do you have to hate it because they made it for you? I saw that bugs me sometimes. I think when it's blatant and it's a little too much, it's like, okay, like don't let it deter you from what the story was always going to be. But if you want to throw something in there that you think the fans will enjoy, do it. Why not? Like, we wouldn't have Cobra Kai if that wasn't the case.
Cobra Kai, though, is the exception to that rule. They are able to go back and give the fans what they want and also propel the story forward in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. I wonder if Cobra Kai is technically a good show, because the acting's not that good. It's like a good show. It's well rated too, but I just kind of, do you feel what I'm saying a little bit though? I'm not saying it's bad.
Some of the acting is not the best, and I think that's just that some of these actors aren't seasoned enough.
Yeah.
And they're carrying this huge show on their shoulders.
Yeah.
But there's room
Must
for
be a
them
lot
to
of pressure.
improve, and there's more that I love about it than what I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there another show for you that is there a show for you that's quote unquote good bad? And is there a show for you that went sour aside from Game of Thrones that you're still upset about?
Oh, Dexter.
Oh, really? I never really got into Dexter, but
Oh.
I heard that happen. I'm like, okay, I'm glad I didn't.
Dexter is amazing. It's an amazingly well put together show. I love Dexter. I love his whole journey, what he went through, and then you get to the final season and it all falls apart. And the season finale, it still makes me mad to think about, because it was just that maddening. But from what I understand, they're going to reboot Dexter, and they're going to not really go back and fix anything, but they're going to kind of move the story forward. So I'm hoping that maybe they can kind of,
well, maybe they can close out with something so grandiose that you make it seem like all those other things were kind of a smaller step in his growth. But that's tough to do that. And it's tough with that actor too, because he's a good actor and he came from, I think, one of the best shows ever that really kind of flew under the radar, 6 Feet Under.
mm-hmm.
Best show ever, best series finale ever.
I hear that a lot about that show.
It's a beautiful show.
Another one that did the finale very well was Charmed. Charmed put together what I think is an awesome, series finale. They kind of gave fans what they wanted, but they kind of like go into the future a little bit, and they show you what happened. They kind of just like made the whole show like well-rounded, and they kind of just encapsulated everything and propelled other storylines forward, and just without leaving it open too much. But
I just thought of a really good series finale as well, but I'm going to save that for our season finale when we talk about finales.
Right.
Maybe I'll save it for the end of the podcast too, for the finale of the finale.
Maybe
about finales.
Yeah, because I would like to talk about the Charmed finale at some point, because there's just a lot to say about it that I really liked. So I'll go back to that.
I think series finales in terms of TV or movies, they do have a lot to say, because it's like, can you tie it all up? And I think I'm excited to talk about that stuff with you too. And like, I'm going to talk about like a lot about Avengers too and things like that. But yeah, we'll get to that. I'm excited to chat with that. Cool. Something I was thinking about that I wanted to bring up to you about bad movies. And I think there's a certain type of bad movie that is considered the best type of bad movie, but I don't know if it's always necessarily bad. What do you think of the cult classic? Is it a bad movie? Is it originally a bad movie? Is it always a bad movie that has a good following? Or is it a good movie that flew under the radar and has that good following, but just never made it to the sunlight?
I think all of it, because if you look at things like the Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Mm-hmm.
Halloween started out with nobody really paying
Yeah.
attention to it, and then it just exploded. Star Wars was the same thing. Came out in May, and it kind of just flew under the radar a little bit. Nobody really paid attention to it until a few months later, and then it just mostly because when it came out that May of '77, it came out in a very limited release.
Yeah.
So the
Well,
default
I think a lot of them did
sold.
back then. So that's why then you get things like the Boondock Saints, who people, I think, it kind of flew under the radar at the theaters. And I think a lot of people compared him to Quentin Tarantino, or the movie to Quentin Tarantino. And I think at the time, people thought it was a great movie. But now that it's aged a bit, it's kind of like, oh, maybe it wasn't that great, but it's still good. It's still like fun, bad.
Mhm.
But I guess that's the kind of cult classic I think of in terms of that. Because then I think another cult classic is Trick or Treat, a movie that I adore and is very critically well received, but it just had a really weird production where it didn't quite make it to theaters. Something with Superman Returns, because it was made by the same company and maybe the same director, but they held off on releasing it, and then eventually got released like 2 years later on DVD. But definitely not a bad movie, but definitely got hit by weird promotional problems. I don't know. Maybe there's like grudges in Hollywood where people are trying to hurt each other's projects or something.
Who knows? Who knows? The politics in entertainment is out of control.
Well, just watch Entourage and you'll know all about the pot. Apparently, it's a lot like that.
Yeah, I am behind seasons on that. I think maybe I watched the first 4 seasons. I don't remember how many there were, and I never got to see the movie. So there's a lot to catch up on there. But I did enjoy that show too.
Well, oddly enough, um, I think that show is one of those shows that kind of goes bad. So you could probably stop where you are. I don't know. It's not terrible. It really is fine. And they have a movie, and I don't know that they needed the movie. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I really don't remember almost anything about the movie. So, like, HBO had a couple movies that came out. They had, I'm drawing a blank on one, but they had Sex in the City 1 and 2, and then they did that. And I think Sex in the City, they just hit it out of the freaking park. And Entourage was almost like, why did you even make it? Like, it was almost like a sleeper. That was a bad, I don't know. It just didn't have the same formula. I think people stopped caring. And I think Sex in the City left people wanting more.
Mm. Okay. I never watched Sex in the City. Just not
I watch it. I watch it because my mom watched it a lot. So, and my mom used to call it Elephant in the City, and we'd have to like anytime like, because we were just the kids, like we were sleeping on our floor. We were kids in a room, and she was like, "Oh God, okay." Well, I'm watching my show, but anytime anything got like kind of anything above PG-13, she's like, "No looking, everyone," and she's like everyone would cover their faces, so we'd
Oh,
always
that's
miss the
so
bad stuff.
funny.
But very fun show. Kind of outrageous. Like the Samantha Jones character is just ridiculous, and she just says the most outrageous stuff. It's because of how ridiculous she is, and she's kind of like a real like new thing for that time frame. I think should be like this very outspoken woman who really loves sex, but very funny show. And it's actually getting a reboot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's getting it's part of HBO Max, which I think they're just trying to get as many ducks in a row for people getting on the streaming service, but still really good. But Entourage certainly went downhill for me.
Well, Sex in the City also they gave it a prequel series too. I can't
I
remember the name
saw
of
a piece of it, the Carrie Diaries.
Okay. Okay.
Very silly. It was kind of like one of those, oh, I don't know if this needs to exist, but I'm very glad they're going with the sequel, but they're cutting out that Samantha Jones character. So because she doesn't get along with the other three,
Mhm.
so much so that the third movie got canceled. And it's just kind of like, oh well, I hope it still works. I feel like they could do it still and like tell a more mature story, but I don't know, because they're all like in their 40s and 50s now. So I feel like now they don't have to be telling those partying in New York things and could tell some real like family interesting stuff. I don't know. It's not even called Sex in the City anymore. It's called and Just Like That.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll
Hmm.
be an interesting thing. I guess something else I wanted to talk about too, since we chatted about the prequels, just to kind of get this in there. And I don't know if you want to close on this horrible topic or not, but the sequels of Star Wars. What did you think?
Oh.
I know we chatted about this a lot, but I feel like we should at least chat about this here because I think they kind of fall under the no hope slogan we have for our episode here.
Well, I really enjoyed Force Awakens.
I love the Force Awakens.
Is fantastic. You know, within 15 minutes, the first 15 minutes, I'm in the theater going, they nailed this. You know, and that was only 15 minutes in. It just had the Star Wars feel. I know many people call it just a reboot of the first Star Wars, just a remake of of A New Hope, but and maybe in some respects it is, but it had its own story, it had its own vibe in a way. I really enjoyed all the characters, Rey and Finn and little BB-8, and we really enjoyed that. So, and I had been really, really reluctant. Like I hadn't been as excited to see it as other people were because I really I was worried about it. And I was hoping that JJ would prove my feelings wrong, and he did. So coming off of that, I was really, really excited. And now Last Jedi comes along, and I'm like all amped up going, okay, JJ did so well. I'm excited for this. I get in the theater and I'm like, what did I just watch?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that hurt. I'm still on the fence, honestly, about Last Jedi. I think there were things in it that I appreciated. I think we've said this before. I don't think they needed to undo so much stuff that the Force Awakens set up, like who's Snoke, who's Rey's parents, and there was a couple other questions that they just completely like, oh no, that's not happening. And I think what made me mad is like it was almost kind of like teasing us as the audience for assuming things or talking about things. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but and like I heard a rumor that Snoke was Darth Plagueis, and that's why they changed routes because we guessed it. But it's like, you know what? It's like if you were gonna do it, then do it. And what bothers me is they played the same music in Revenge of the Sith when they're talking about Darth Plagueis as what plays when you see Snoke, and then on in The Mandalorian again. And you know, it's like, okay, if he's not Plagueis, I don't know what he was supposed to be. And I just get really annoyed with the whole we're gonna trick the audience thing, and then it left. So there are things about Last Jedi. Like I think Rey could have been no one, and I think that would have been fine. I think that would have been kind of bold, but they didn't have to do all of it. They didn't have to insult us quite so much. And I still was kind of always hoping for her to be Kenobi, especially because they had her keep her accent and John Boyega get rid of his. I think they had something there, but to like not plan out three movies with three set dates and not have it be one continuous story, and that like the writers didn't, like the creators didn't all get together and say this is what the whole story is going to be, let's get from A to B, how we're getting there in those three movies, was an atrocious decision. If Lord of the Rings can make all three and put it out in succession and be fantastic, we could have thought this out better. I'm sorry, I ranted.
And part of the problem is that, well, you know, now we're going to hear my ranting and raving over this. Part of the problem is that the JJ is a Star Wars fan. So he, as a Star Wars fan, knows what the fans want and cares about what the fans want, all while knowing that he had to also listen to the higher ups at Disney, but he was able to do that great blend. You get Rian Johnson, and one of the things that he comes out with once he knows all this backlash is coming at him is he says, I did a movie that I wanted to do. How about the fans? And that was his
Mhm.
whole attitude. And then JJ comes back, and now he's got to pick up the pieces from the mess
And
that
I think
Ryan
he
created.
tried too hard to pick up the pieces. I think he
Right.
tried too hard to fight back. And I think he should have fought more like an Aikido style and go with the flow and make a better movie. I think Ray could have still been no one. We could have made it something. We didn't need to bring back Palpatine, but I did kind of like seeing him a little bit, but for the most part, it was like you really didn't. I don't know, and I think they should have embraced Carrie Fisher dying. And I know it's horrible to say, and I love Carrie Fisher and I love Princess Leia, and I feel horrible that she passed. But I think they should have opened up with the funeral scene and just embraced it. You know, it's like this is what we have to do, and I'm curious of what they're going to do with Black Panther. I mean, I think they're going to. I think the obvious choice is pass it on to the younger sister, who's already a very popular character and also turns into Black Panther in the comics. But I think that would be, unless you can find a better way to do it. I don't like. You could tell that they made those scenes around the footage they had with her, and it wasn't enough.
You know, there were some things that really, as a Star Wars fan, really made me angry with The Last Jedi. The unceremonious killing off of Admiral Akbar.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
was he
I
General
can't disagree.
Akbar at that point? I mean, what he could have done there that would have totally saved it for me, instead of just unceremoniously tossing him out of a window, give him the part that you gave to Laura Dern and have him make that hero sacrifice that her character made. And that
Mhm.
would have saved that whole thing for me. Instead, you bring
Yeah,
her in, and nothing against Laura Dern. I think she's great. But the character wasn't needed when you already had an existing character that you could have done
if
something
you're,
with.
I feel the same way. If you're just gonna kill him anyway, then just have it do it. I can see though maybe it'd be harder to feel emotion for a character who's one associated with the funniest meme ever of, you know, it's a trap. And two, it's like his facial expression. It's hard to like feel emotion with him. And I think Laura Dern's character is easier to do that. And I agree with you. I think it should have been someone that was just already there. However, I think that was by far, and it was a beautiful scene. Both the sound, the editing, the imagery, and Laura Dern was great in that part. So I'll give her that. That was not. So, like I said, I'm very torn about The Last Jedi because I commend some things, but I think Finn was a waste. I think Captain Phasma was a waste. That was the other toss away thing. Like, oh, you think Captain Phasma was important? Well, she's not.
Right,
Well,
exactly. One of the things
why
that
can't she be?
one of the things that upset me about The Last Jedi is, and maybe this wasn't intentional in The Force Awakens, but I felt
Mm,
that they were setting up a really great storyline with Finn, in that they talked about him being pulled away from his family and forced to serve, in
yep.
war. And that really paralleled for me the real life stories of these poor children in
Mhm.
Africa that are torn away from their families every day and forced to fight in wars that they know nothing about and don't believe in. And so I thought that they kind of like had that responsibility to continue maybe fleshing out that story a little bit and make him a hero of that. Instead, they just cast Finn to the side and did nothing.
Yeah, I think Rose and his, and I don't think Rose is inherently bad. I think cutting her screen time out in that third one was just an atrocious reaction to the fans whining, and that was so not cool to do to her. Because yeah, she wasn't the coolest character, but it wasn't her fault. It wasn't the actress's fault. They just wrote her like that. However, I feel like that time could have been spent to, the Stormtrooper storyline that Carrie and Rise of Skywalker, like he meets more Stormtroopers that escaped. I
Mhm.
think that could have been built up in the second one and the third one, and that could have been more satisfying. And Rose could have been one of them. I don't know. I think like really mishandled. I just you felt the directors fighting.
You know, I see. I'm one of those that absolutely agree with Rose Tico's character being cut down significantly. I did not enjoy the character.
Mhm.
But it's not Kelly Marie Tran. And I think that everything that everybody did to her online is a complete bunch of bull. It doesn't matter what race she is. It doesn't matter what color she is. You know, it had nothing to do with her acting for me. It was the character. I felt the character, like they were bringing on too many characters. When you're trying to wrap up a story, you're bringing in too many characters instead of focusing on the characters you should have been. So it's no fault of Kelly Marie Tran's. It's just I did not enjoy the Rose Tigo character.
And I think Rose, I think you're 100% right, because they split up Finn, Oscar Isaac, and Ray again, and it should have been Ray, Finn, and Poe getting to know each other, because then they had that team aspect in the third one, and it felt good, and they had good chemistry. But you were like 2 minutes too late. Like they should have been friends. Like they should have been a group before. Like you gave us all this, and you're expecting us to feel something when they have that group hug at the end. But it's like, you know what? Ray just met Poe at the very end of the second movie. They, as far as I know, they have no relationship.
Right.
So it was forced and rushed, and I didn't like Disney was promoting the first like LGBT kiss in Star Wars. I truly 100% thought, and I think this would have saved a lot of the movie, I thought it was going to be Finn and Poe. And the fact that they made such a big deal for this quick background thing, I was like, oh my God, Disney, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was a quick background, just peck. That's all it was. Like, you know, because they want to try to be current. They want to try to be relevant. So they stuck this little thing in there instead of doing what they should.
Yeah.
But they also did the same thing in the Chinese markets on the poster for Finn. They just made him this little background character in order to satisfy another market. And it just ticks me off.
Yeah, I wish markets and money didn't have anything to do with it. Filmmakers could be brave enough to just put it out there and just like, I hope this works. We need to end this on a positive note, though, because we're talking too much about bad stuff. We need to talk about one more good, bad thing.
Well, I know on our agenda and was, talking about movies that everybody else hates that we love, and movies that we love that everybody else hates, if you want to brush through that quickly.
Let's do that. So what's the first one again? Tell me again, because now my brain's all hardwired.
Movies that everybody else seems to love, but you don't.
Oh, right. Oh, I got one. Right off the bat.
Hit me.
Avatar.
Really?
Avatar.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't. It's like whatever. It happened. I just and I think that one's fame and spark is dying out with time too, because the story was nothing. It was beautiful to look at. Yeah. However, I think Life of Pi is arguably just as beautiful, and I don't think that there was so much hype. And it was Pocahontas. It was Fern Gully. It was Dances with Wolves. It's just that story again. And I don't like Sam Worthington.
Okay. I still have not seen Avatar. I'm going to now that it's on Disney Plus, but I have not seen it.
Oh, I might turn it on, but I might like paint my apartment too and then wash the wall while I have it on in the background. Oh, I am terrible to Avatar.
Okay, so my pick is Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause. James Dean, Natalie Wood, Sal Mineo, 1955. It is touted to be this classic.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. I thought the acting was awful. See, the thing is that I want to like James Dean because he is the ultimate fool for back then. You got the leather jacket and the suave hair, and he's got that bad boy look, and it makes you want to like him. And it's not that he was so bad in this movie. I didn't really buy his acting, so I really didn't think he was at his best. Not that I'm a connoisseur of James Dean movies, but Natalie Wood, I thought her performance was flat and nothing there.
Was her performance wooden?
Oh, it was. That is good.
Oh my god.
It was
I
Natalie Wooden.
had to put
Yeah.
that there. That was, I'm sorry. That
No,
was
no,
funny.
that was fantastic. Sal Mineo, you're supposed to feel bad for these three because the reason that they're bad teens or whatever is because they have problems at home. Well, I get it. Whatever. But Sal, I'm supposed to feel bad for Sal Mineo's character, Plato, I think it was. At the beginning of the movie, he's being brought into the police station because he was caught killing a litter of puppies.
Oh god.
After that, I kind of like tuned out, and the rest of the movie, I'm like, what is this? This is garbage. I just don't like it. I know people might want to yell at me for that and go right ahead, but I just don't like it.
That kind of also reminds me of another movie that I feel similarly about is No Country for Old Men.
Mm-hmm.
Boring. Oh my gosh, so boring. Like, I understand the acting is great and the message, everything about it was great. Just, oh my gosh, it is slow and is not. I don't know. I think I feel like I need more interesting camera angles. Like, I need something like Edgar Wright because I get pulled into that kind of stuff. But even like, there's a lot of static stuff going on in that movie. I don't know.
I'm with you there. I was bored throughout that movie, and then you get to the end, and he just like gives up looking for him. It's like, huh. I'm like, what is this mess?
Oh, last one. I just gotta throw one more out there because it just kind of pulling out of my head now. But Pacific Rim, did you like that?
I did not see Pacific Rim.
Okay, because people like it like a lot, and I don't. I am watching it. I have no clue why. It was the most hilarious thing in the theater with my two buddies who really wanted to see this. And then the movie opens up from black and it's like a tear into the dimension in the ocean. And then you just hear one voice in the audience and it's me. I'm like, oh no. my friend was hysterical because I couldn't contain myself to the point of like, as soon as I heard that line, because I'm like, well, maybe it's cool, maybe they live underwater or something like that, and maybe like people just don't know where they were and why they are invading the earth. But no, tearing the dimension, that's why they're not on our planet. I don't know.
Okay, so I have one for you. I don't know if it's something that other people enjoy and that I don't, but I just can tell you I did not enjoy this. Prometheus.
Oh,
I don't know what the
because
ratings are for that movie. I don't know, but it was awful. I was in the theater and I was with my husband and my friend Joe, and Joe's like nudging me through most of the movie because I'm laughing. I was laughing at this. It was just that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
By the end of it, we were both laughing.
Do you have a good example? Because I don't really have one. I'm trying to think of some right now, and I feel like if I heard your example first, one might spill out. But of like our other example of movies that we love that people hate.
Oh, I've got one for you right off the bat. Grease 2.
Oh, that's yeah.
I've got,
of course,
I think, two whole friends that enjoy that movie as much as I do. Our significant others can't stand it. So when we get together, it's just three of us talking about how much we love it, and the other three going, "You guys are nuts." Okay, it's not Grease. I will say that I know that it's not Grease. I'm not even going to compare it to the original.
Yeah, because you know it's not Grease, right?
It's not, and it can't be compared to Grease. And they tried to make it like Grease, and it's really not. But there's something charming about it that I absolutely love. I love the songs. I love the actors that are in it. I know Michelle Pfeiffer can't stand it, as most people do.
That's hilarious. I don't know. I think it was just because it was so closely tied with Grease and it was so popular. I don't know. it's a tough movie to defend. I'll give it, you're a trooper for trying to do it.
I love it though. It's just there's something about it that I don't know, the cool rider and uh, I don't, and she's falling in love with him. It doesn't realize that he's Michael and the cool rider.
How did
It's
she not
cheesy,
realize?
but I love it.
His goggles are see-through. You can see his eyes. How he's not
I know.
even wearing reflective glasses.
And he doesn't speak often as the cool rider, but when he does, the accent's still there. So it's completely implausible that she would not know who he is, but still, I like it.
He doesn't even disguise his voice.
Doesn't.
I don't. I don't know. That's a little ridiculous.
And he decides to, come out and reveal himself at the big hula at the end. After they all think
I didn't like
dead.
so I'm gonna argue with you with this. Like that hula thing made me mad too. I'm like, what is this that they're having here? They're just trying to have the carnival, but it's a hula.
Right.
It just is so silly. They give so much to those kids.
They tried to make it like, I mean, they even tied it in. Michael is Sandy's cousin. And Frenchie, now that she has to repeat her senior year because she was a beauty school dropout, 2 years later now, and she's going back into high school, and she's going back into her senior year, and she's going to help out Michael.
I don't know if this one counts, but it's kind of like something that I find myself defending more often. So I think they're definitely not bad movies. They're all rated pretty well, but I think any Nancy Meyers movies, I think, are kind of saddled with this negative connotation of it being a chick flick, and they are chick flicks, and it's like what they call real estate porn. But I'm just gonna say, like, that would be my pick, because I kind of like am shamelessly always like, if she puts out something, I'll watch it, and it's something very comforting for me to watch. I think Something's Gotta Give is a great movie. I think It's Complicated is also great, but I feel like not everyone thinks that's great. And I think after that, like The Intern, The Holiday, I think there's people who like it, and people are like, oh, Nancy friggin' Myers. So I think that's something that I would throw out there. For anything that's like truly bad, I'll keep it in like the horror Adam Sandler genre. Like, I love Mr. Deeds. I love Anger Management. And I don't think, I mean, if you're going into it expecting to like have a profound sense of new joy from the story you watch, I think you're going into it for the wrong reason,
Exactly. I mean, when it comes down to it, you like what you like for whatever reason, whether it, like I said earlier, whether it's just nostalgic or it hit at a certain point in your life, or there's just something redeemable in it for you, then whatever.
Yeah.
Except for the last
I think that would fall into the ugly for us, because it's such a, I mean, you just hate it. I have an extremely complicated relationship with Last Jedi. And I don't know. I'm trying to also think of bad TV that I'll defend. No, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of stuff that I just don't like. If I don't like it anymore, I'll stop watching it.
And I've had a hard time with that over the years. I have this thing where once I start watching a show, no matter how bad it gets, it's almost like I have to see it through to the end. Otherwise, I feel like something's missing because I didn't watch the rest of the story. I've tried to work on that over the years, and I've been a little more successful at cutting off shows that are just not doing it for me. And I actually was able to shut down a couple of shows for myself. So I'm proud of myself for.
I almost started Walking Dead again. I started Game of Thrones last spring, and then I was gonna start Walking Dead again, but I couldn't commit to it. It was just like too much bad you had to get through. But I don't know. I love Walking Dead, but
See, now that I've invested so much time into The Walking Dead, I feel like I have to continue watching it. And there are some episodes that are better than others. To me, it's much more improved than it was in seasons 3 through 5 for me.
mm-hmm.
But I'm just
going to. Got great. I heard it got awesome after Rick left.
I don't know. I don't know if I would use the word awesome, but I do think that they were able to come through with different storylines because he's not there. I think the little girl that plays Judith is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really, I like
I
her a
still
lot.
miss Carl being around. They should just not have done it.
That hurt. And it's like they listened to the fans way too late. Like, oh, they killed him up. People hated him a couple seasons, like 4 or 5 seasons ago. He's the so dramatic. I did think of another one that I would defend to the end. Maybe not the end, but I'll defend it. Captain Marvel. For the Marvel universe. It's not a bad movie. I just think a lot of people are kind of meh about it, but it was so much fun. I just love seeing like Samuel L. Jackson and like the whole movie with her. I love that we had like this all-powerful being. I love that we went back to the 90s because they're really good at kind of jumping in time frames with the MCU. And I feel like it got a bad rap just because she was a female. And you know what? People can swear up and down that's not the case, but I think no matter what happens, there would be a little bit of prejudice with that and a little bit of reluctance to watch it. But I loved Captain Marvel. It reminded me of, and I think because it was a 90s time, it reminded me of like watching movies as a kid. So
now kind of, if we want to like close this out on a positive note, what are some things that you're watching now that you really are enjoying?
So like good.
Yeah, good.
Let's see. I'm very much excited for To All the Boys 3. That's coming out on Netflix soon. I'll probably watch that, but it's I don't think the second one's that great. I love the first one, and I wish they just kept it the first one. However, I'll be watching that soon. I've been redoing Schitt's Creek lately, which I think is just a wonderful show if you're ever looking for any kind of just pick me up. And I think I'm also watching it right now because I'm also rewatching The Leftovers. And it's a really interesting show about what happens when 2% of the world just disappears. And it really resonates with the world today. And I won't get too much more into that than that. I think you should check this show out. It's a super cool HBO show, 3 seasons long, 28 episodes total. So I just finished the second season 2 nights ago. Fantastic show. Like I said, one of the better shows to kind of do a watch now because I think it really means a lot for the world of 2021. So that's my good stuff I'm watching for movies and TV.
Let's see. I'm well, a lot of my network TV shows, not all of them are back yet because they've had delays in production, due to things going on. One of the things that's back on that I'm so happy it's back on is The Rookie. I will watch nearly anything. Actually, I should say anything with Nathan Fillion in it. And
I've heard this
no
great
exception.
thing.
Yep, he's in his 40s, and he decides to revamp his life by starting a new career, and he becomes a rookie in the police force. And I think it's just fantastic. I am always amazed at the writing each episode. There's so much humor there amongst the drama and the chaos, and it's just really good. I've also been watching, I told you about this earlier, but The History of Swear Words on Netflix.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. It gets very vulgar at times. So if you kind of don't like that kind of thing, don't check it out, but it's definitely worth a watch if you can handle that kind of humor.
That I definitely want to check that one out. I've been meaning to watch also The Boys. And speaking of cool things that just kind of came out recently, I don't know if you saw, but the Godzilla vs. King Kong trailer dropped yesterday.
Yes, we did watch.
Super excited for that because I think I've been excited for this remake set because I love the 60s one. So, and I knew like the whole MonsterVerse was just leading to this one fight. So I think I'm like, okay, cool. I gotta watch King of Monsters now because I gotta actually. But super cool trailer. If anyone's hasn't seen it yet, definitely check that out. But those are definitely some good movies, TV shows, and trailers. Some real good things to watch, if you ask me. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like what you heard here today, give us a big thumbs up. Join in on discussion by leaving a comment, and while you're at it, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any new episodes. We'll see you next time on Good Things to Watch with Joey and Rachel.
See ya.